Joining me here in the TV44 studio are the founders, co-founders, Ben Swartz Jordan Powell. Of course, I know Hannah, your wife, is very involved in this too. Let's talk a little bit about who and what Dream On is. Absolutely. Again, we appreciate being here, but Dream On is pretty young. We're only a couple years old, and actually, how Dream On started, it was an instance, and we talked about this earlier, where I went on a mission trip. I went on a canoe trip about 7 years ago. During that time, I really started to believe that anything was possible with Christ. And fast forward, years after that trip happened, Jordan and I actually sat down for breakfast one morning, and we were contemplating how we could start businesses to help mission work, things like that. And we ended up talking about how so many of our friends were in ministry, and we wanted to be able to do something all together with going down that same vein of just dreaming with the Lord and just believing that anything was possible. And so we started, that day is when Dream On started. We're like, let's do this. Let's do a conference. You know, let's start that. So our first conference we had a couple years ago. We had Matt Hammett, Derek Johns from Jesus Culture, some other people at our first conference.
And Andy.
And Andy Lynch was one of our breakouts. That was down in Botkins, wasn't it? Yes, down in Botkins. And Dream On we're stateside, but our heart's always been international as well. So that first year, we did that first conference, and then we went straight to Honduras that fall down there. And we had, at our first event down there, we actually had 10,000 people show up to our first event. And when you experience things like that, and again, it's not all about numbers, but when you experience things like that and you just see how God can use you, it just makes you want to dream even more. So that's kind of the short and sweet of how it got started. I loved watching in the documentary just so simple things like feeding a piece of pizza and just things that we probably take for granted here in the United States, and the love that was felt through that by you all doing that for those individuals there, and for you guys as well. It was a two-way street. But that's not the only thing. Your hearts are internationally, but your hearts are also local. And you've got some things coming up in March and April that people right here in this area can be a part of. Absolutely. We have a worship night that we're a part of in Wapak, actually at the Wapak Theater. It is March 8th. It's a Friday night. It starts at 6 p.m. It's a community night of worship, but it's also anything that we're involved in at Dream On is all about helping the body of Christ dream again. So Pastor Wilmer, actually from Honduras, is flying up. We're going to have some unique things going on that night. It's a totally free event, but it's going to be an awesome, powerful night of worship. Great. Jordan, can you talk to us about the business event that's taking place in April? Yeah, so one of the things that Ben and I have talked about it's been over probably about a year and a half. We've been sort of sitting on the idea and just praying about the right time to do it. But so we finally decided a little bit over a year ago that this April that we are going to do our first ever business conference. And so we had done some more leadership ministry style conferences before in the past, and we kind of felt like we're both kind of entrepreneurial in spirit, and we thought, we really feel like we could bring some things to the table for businesses, and we could plan an event with excellence, which is one of our core values. And so we have one of Dave Ramsey's right-hand man, Ken Coleman, who hosts the Ken Coleman podcast, is on XM Radio. He's got tons and tons and tons of huge following there. And we have former Shark Tank winner, a good friend of ours, Tom Burden, and we have some other local business leaders, and just we tried to really grab the best of who we could around here that would just really help businesses dream. And one of the things we talked about is sometimes in Lima there's this sort of sense of it's just Lima, it's like this small thing, but we really feel like that's a lame excuse, that the Lord has called us to go into all the world. And so we feel like we can really, and one of our goals is to really empower businesses to dream bigger and to encourage their employees to dream bigger as well. So great stuff. Ben Swartz Jordan Powell from Dream On World.
Not only amazing things happening in Honduras, but right here in this area too. And you can go to their website, dreamon.world, to find out more information about those events that they just talked to you about. Register, plan to attend, pray about things, and consider being a part of their Honduras trip that's taking place later on this year. Dreamon.world is the website.